Let's see, we have are there any questions about, we covered last time we finished the topic of sensation. Today we're going to talk about perception. And I've got really two big questions we're going to try and answer today related to the field of perception. And then we're going to go into states of consciousness. Well, we're not going to go into them. We're going to talk about states of consciousness for next time. And we'll talk about sleep primarily, dreams, sleep disorders. And we'll do that starting, well, is Wednesday Tori? Is that right? Okay, so we won't do that then, but we will do that starting a week from today, Monday. All right, anything that I can real quickly answer, questions that you have about any previous material or anything about the class as we get started? Because if not, I think what I'm going to do today is I think we're going to start with some magic. I want to see if I could, well, let's say this. Perceptions are important. Give me an example of why you think perceptions are important. Give me an example, a context, a situation in which what we perceive is maybe even more important than what's maybe even really going out there. Anybody have any thoughts on that, or questions or observations? Like, one time you were here or there, and this perception, give me an example, any time or anything that you can think of as to why perceptions may be even sometimes more important than reality.
Well, sometimes we perceive, like when we're talking to people, we perceive a certain, like, if they're talking, like we perceive something that they're saying, but we see it differently than what they're meaning to say. Does that make sense?
So you're saying there are times in which you're talking to somebody, they're attempting to explain something, say something, but we're perceiving it very differently from other cues that we're getting. So what's the truth? What they're saying or what we're perceiving about what they're saying? Right? Does that make sense? I told you about those that maybe are trying to get you to perceive something differently. So, for example, illusions or illusionists want you to see something or perceive or not perceive something. And so this whole topic today is going to be about perceptions. Give me another example.
I was thinking about placebo pills.
Oh, okay, sure. A placebo, where you might get relief from a headache. If I gave you a pill, you could take this pill and get relief from it, even though the pill is nothing but sugar. You don't know it's sugar, you just know that this is a pretty powerful pill because I told you, you take it. And what percentage of people, by the way, would get relief of a headache from a pill made of sugar?
A lot.
1%? 10, 25? Well, probably, depending upon the context and the way you do it, we can get as high as maybe 30% of the people could get relief. So a placebo, that means there's a perception that is critical to whether or not your headache goes away, which is kind of weird.
So there's this one survey that I saw that they did the same thing with the MSG, saying that people got like headaches or something.
Yeah, so there was a study, I think what you're referring to with the MSG is that sometimes people get headaches, but if they didn't know it was in there, they wouldn't get a headache, but if they thought it was in there, they all of a sudden got a headache. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
All right, perceptions. What influences, how many of you all have ever seen a UFO? Let me see your hand. Some have a hard time. Come on, raise your hands. I got 5, 6, maybe 7. You thought, okay, you thought it was a UFO. But are there any guests here today? Anybody visiting? Where are the visitors? Way to go. Glad you're here. Where are you visiting from? Chicago. The Windy City. Anybody else visiting today? A couple people? Way back there. You're all together. You play basketball. Do you? That was a good guess. They do. I knew they were coming. So sometimes we can maybe see an object and have a perception about it that no one else does. Sometimes we can alter perceptions. This is a cool picture for me, by the way. where you have people on a swimming pool, or you could tell it's not a swimming pool, it's only a chalk drawing. Have you seen these guys who do sidewalk art? That's pretty cool. How do you do that? Well, you have to know something about human perception. To make it look 3D, like if at a certain angle, this could look, like a 3D piece of work. Well, the key to perceptions is going to be the way that you organize and interpret your sensations. So let's start to see if I can organize and understand some of your perceptions. And we'll do it, I think, in a couple of ways. Is it possible for me to make a perception without a sensation? That's one question we're going to get to. So this definition says, I take a sensation, a smell this morning that many of you smelled. On this campus today was a horrible odor that permeated the entire Southern California region, and this is one of the few days that a restroom smelled better than the outside of the restroom. It was a horrible smell, wasn't it? Yeah, we know what it was. It was a phenomenon that was going on at a treatment center plant not far from here, and this is at least the second or third time that whole cities have complained that this particular city's treatment of the sewer stuff has faded down. Well, we've all smelt it. Is it still there right now? A little bit, and we're getting used to it. By the way, the phenomenon of us getting used to that smell so we don't smell it anymore is called what? Wait, I lectured for an entire hour and 15 minutes on Wednesday, and part of it was I said, if you smell a smell, but you no longer smell the smell, it's sensory adaptation. Way to go, kid. Do you need a sensation to have a perception? We say that you have to have light or a sound or something. Is it possible for me to send you or you to send me? Let's try that. You send me something mentally, and I'll try and pick it up. Or would you like me to send it to you? Which one? Me send it to you all? Is that what you said? The other way around? All right, you send it to me. Ready? Let's try an easy one. We're going to see if we can come up with if I can come up with a perception of something that without a sensation. By the way, there's a name for this. Okay? What's that name? If I can get a perception from from a sensation that's not normal or standard, or what's beyond the extra channels, we call it extrasensory perception, or ESP. Should we give it a shot? There's somebody on this campus who believes they have ESP and they can see what goes on in a room like this. They're not here. It's a true person. They're not here, but they believe one type of ESP is that they can see or move what's going on in a distant location. Another one is that we can send something mind to mind to each other. Scientists love studying things like this because there are people who believe that people can have ESP. How many of you all have ever thought of somebody, and as you thought about them, you decided to text them or call them, and they were calling or texting you at that exact same moment? Has that ever happened to you? Oh, how many think that's kind of weird? Was it weird like at the time? Why was it weird? What was weird about it? Why is it strange? Because they were thinking of you at the same moment and you were thinking of them and you sent a text. Is that right? Or how many of y'all have ever had a dream of somebody or something and it happened to seem like it came true later on? Has that ever happened to any of y'all? Oh. One time, ready? I have identical twin brothers. And what happens? There were a lot of us boys in this family, and so of the 5 boys, one time 2 of us were I remember picking on one of them, and he was a younger kid. He was the twin, and it was the only reason I remember these details is because what happened. And so he sat there. It was like after school. He was watching TV, and he goes like this. He says, he just started complaining about his leg, that his right leg hurt. Now the detail, I wouldn't even remember the story. It'd be gone except for what happened next. His right leg hurts. We didn't even beat him up that day and kick him in the right leg. So it was just odd to be sitting there all of a sudden, wow, my leg hurts, man, my right leg, it really hurts. That's what he said. About an hour and a half later, 2 hours later, here comes my mom with his identical twin brother. They're coming home from the hospital because his identical twin was in a bike accident and hurt his right knee. We asked when. I was like 3 o'clock. I got the phone call. I was out. I went and picked him up. Went, oh, at 3 o'clock. You freaky, you twins. You're freaky. Is it possible that, where are my twins? Is it possible that one can communicate with the other in thinking about something? He was sitting there. It's 3 o'clock. His knee hurts. And unbeknownst to us and to him, an hour later, here comes his twin brother with his right knee wrapped and bandaged because of an accident. Is there some sort of communication that goes on between people without a sensation? Does that make sense? He was here. That person was there, and something happened. Has that ever happened to you guys? No, they said no. All right. How many of you ever heard of twin language like that, where they might sense and feel what the other's feeling, even if the other one's far away, or your friend might know you're about to call them, or you're going to text them, and they text you? Is that weird and possible? Do we live in that? Is that kind of world exist? And by the way, that's what psychologists say when they talk about perception, because we say perception is the organizing and interpreting of our sensations. But is it possible that we can have other things? So I'm going to then, ready? You're going to send me, is that how we decided? You're going to send me a number. So let's make it real easy. We're going to make it harder and harder. Right now, ready? Send me a number between 1 and 4. Ready? And no one say anything. Oh, I was getting 3, a lot of 3s out there. How many sent me a 3? Okay. That was awesome. Let's try a number. Ready? And don't say anything out loud because that'll mess this whole thing up. Send me a number between 1 and 10. Man, I was getting a 7, but every once in a while a 6 was in there, but mostly I was getting a 7. All right. How many sent me that one? Oh, jeez. Now let's make it really a little bit more difficult. Send me a number between 1 and 50. But let's make it interesting. Make it so that both digits that you send are odd. Does that make sense? Between 1. But not the same digit. So 15 works because they're both odd, get it? But 11, that's the same digit. Does that make sense? 2 digits, between 1 and 50, send them to me, odd. I was getting 37 and 35 for just a minute. Okay, now let's try this. Send me the grade you want to get on your next test. Wow, a couple of D's, that was weird. Is it possible that people can read and know the thoughts like my twin brothers? Maybe we have something genetic going on. I just read a bunch of numbers that you sent me. Do you believe that? Well, you should. What do you mean, no? That was an amazing demonstration. Would you like to see another amazing demonstration? I'll pick a word. I took an article out of a newspaper. I'm going to pick that word right now and give it to somebody. Don't open this word. All right, don't open it. Just hold on to that word. Let's make this funner. I'll do one on this side, one on that side. I won't even look, and I won't hit anything. Where'd it go? You got did you catch it? Okay, tell me your name.
Ashley.
Ashley, throw it up here, Ashley. Oy, I can't see with those lights. That would have been. Okay, Ashley. Try on this side. That's amazing. Oh, that's like the second time. Did it hit the bar? Yeah. How does somebody do that? Okay. I'll do like a double plate. Oh, ready? Oh, she dropped it. Who's got it? Where's it at? Tell me your name. Josh. Throw it up here, Josh. Golly. Josh. Wow. There's no way we're going to turn 2 doing that. Let's do it again, Josh. Come on, try it again. Right there. Oh, yeah, perfect. Okay, we did it. Josh. All right, Josh. Here's what you got to do. Ashley and Josh. All right, Josh, you're going to come up here in about 1 minute, and you're going to see if I found it, see if I have an article. Here we go. Okay, real quickly, Josh and Ashley. Ashley, I'm going to go like this with an article. It's got about, I don't know how many words in it, maybe 400. I'm going to go like this, just like that, okay? You're going to say to me, cut, and right where you say cut, I'm going to stop and cut, okay? So that way, Josh is going to come up and pick a word, right, out of the top line. So you're going to tell me where to cut. Does that make sense? So ready? I'm going to go this slow. I'm going to go up and down. Ooh, right there. Did I get it? Did I get it? Yeah. Okay. Come on up, Josh. All right, Josh, you're going to pick a word out of the top line. First of all, I may have cut through it, so tell me if the top line is readable. Yeah. Is the top line readable, or did I cut through it? Okay.
No, yeah, it's good.
Okay, don't pick like or the or something. Pick a, hard word, whatever. Top line.
Okay.
You got a word out of the top line?
Yeah.
What is it?
Organizations.
What? Organizations?
Yeah.
All right, get out of here. Organizations. All right, see what we did? We cut the top lines. Ashley told me where. There's the article is, I don't know. The story of a doctoral career is not complete until we look at the wide range of career choices. Without the grant, the Martin Larkins Association surveying students, conducting field interviews, said graduate students learn how do they think about job preparation. Organizations. All right, where's the envelope? Could you open it up? And then read the word that's in there and hold it up. What's the word?
Oh, shut up.
What is hold it up. That is amazing. See, now send me your grades. Go on. Organizations. Josh. Ashley, what's going on here? One more time. By the way, to know something ahead of time of what a person is going to pick is called precognition. It's knowing before an event happens what's going to happen. When someone does and says, I can get the number from you, that's called telepathy. What some people would say happened to my twin brothers is telepathy. One's hurting, and he goes, oh my gosh, this really hurts. And the other kid is over there attuned to him. And we call it telepathy. That's called precognition, knowing ahead of time. She wants to get rid of it. It's kind of like weird, huh? Freaky. Oh. One other one, real quickly. There's another one called clairvoyance, where somebody says they can see something in this room even though they're in a different room. By the way, the military has studied this for a long time, trying to figure out could we find somebody sitting in a different room, and wouldn't it be cool to be able to know what's going on in that room? And there are people who claim to be clairvoyant, so we're going to try it. There's a person who we're going to put to the test on this campus. This person claims they can be clairvoyant. They're somewhere else. They're sitting in another location as we speak. Okay? They're at an extension. What we're going to do as a class is we're going to pick up, and by the way, no cell phones, which is always the case, no There's nothing like that going on, texting or anything else. So what we'll do is we'll just pick 2 people to leave the room who I don't want them to know what this card is. And then they're going to make a phone call to the person and ask them what the card is. That make sense? Yeah. But I want 2 people to leave the room so they don't have any idea what we're going to pick. So I need 2 people to go that way. Should I just throw this?
No.
Just raise your hand, somebody. Okay, tell me your name. Jay and Michael. Jay and Michael. You have no idea what we're going to do, but we're going to pick a playing card, okay? So Jay, Michael, do me a favor. Go out this way, close that door behind you, and don't listen in. All we're going to do is we're going to take 30 seconds. We're going to pick a card. Then somebody will come get you. Jay, Michael? Michael. All right, who wants to help me? All right, come on up here, Miss White. This is a playing deck, normal playing deck of cards. Go find somebody. I'll open them up for you. You guys can see there's just a regular deck of cards. You go find anybody you want and let them either pick a card or you guys agree on a card. It doesn't matter. Just go find somebody, pick a single card randomly or however you want. Do you guys have it? Who has it? Okay. Is that the one you picked? Somebody picked? You picked it. This is what he picked, okay? It's the 10 of... Okay? Nobody knows. We don't want that. Could you go get Jay and Michael? Do you guys remember what it was? Okay, this person who could see is somewhere else. Supposedly they're able to see into this room and are clairvoyant. They left. Jay and Michael. Do you have any idea what card we picked? Any idea? There's a person sitting at this. Open this up for me. Oh yeah. Sorry. See that phone right there? Okay. Here's what I guys need you to do. You guys concentrate for her. Take the number. Call 5. Let me see what it is. 5308. 5308. Ask for Polly, and ask her if she saw a card. Her name is Polly. Ask for Polly.
May I speak to
Polly.
Polly? May I speak to Polly? Yes. Did you see a card?
What? Say it again. Ask her to say it again.
If you can say it again.
Okay, tell her thank you.
Thank you. Is that it?
Okay. Yikes. Man. This is really the best class you've ever seen. Polly is in a different building. No one said anything to Polly. No one sent anything to Polly. No one tipped off Polly. Polly just simply has this ability. How could somebody get a perception without a sensation? She's sitting at her desk. Somehow something's coming in. Give me your thoughts. It's a mystery. This is a mystery. Does it really happen? By the way, the answer, you be thinking about it for just a minute. And I want you to think about, is it possible for us to get a perception without a sensation? Now we're going to dive into perception. And then I'm going to tell you, at the end of the day, what just happened. Okay? By the way, it's called very unprofessional magic. That's what it's called. It's not called ESP. It looks like ESP. It sometimes smells like ESP. People who do ESP want you to think it's ESP, but it's not. It's a magic trick. So, to do magic requires us to have you be thinking about something, and there's a distraction. And by the way, there is It appears to be. Nobody sent anything to Polly, but there's going to be an answer to this. It's called magic. But see, that's what happens with ESP. People want us to believe that there's something weird and strange and unique that goes on, and that people can really send things. Wouldn't that be cool if we really could? And when I say magic, you know what you ought to be hearing right now is, oh, so it didn't really happen? It's called a magic trick. I could probably give you a couple other ones that would go, oh my, and people have been able to fool a lot of people using a magic trick, calling it ESP. So ultimately, at the end of the day, we have to ask this question. The brain and our brains seem to be limited by taking in sensory information and organizing it and interpreting it into a meaningful pattern. That is a UFO. No, that's just an airplane. No, my friend is angry. No, my friend is just being normal. We make, get a new friend. No, we make just simple perceptions all the time without really thinking about it. And sometimes we do it with what appears to be non-information coming in. That is, we don't know why we come up with a feeling, but we do. But primarily, psychologists say, no, our perceptions are really just simply taking in our senses and organizing them. What would happen if we took somebody who's never had the ability to take a sense into their eyes? That is, they're blind. What if we took a blind person, and they have done this, they've given them their sight back when they were like 30. What would they see? Do you have a biblical example of a person? This is a great story out of the Bible. There was a guy who was blind. Tell me what happened. They asked Jesus to come. They saw him and they said, can you heal him? And they asked, why did this guy have, where did his blindness come from? And Jesus answered that. And then he said, would you like to be healed? And he said, yes. And so what did he do? He put mud on his eyes, and the guy opened his eyes, and what did he say? Jesus asked him, what do you see? And he says, I see what? Men walking about, they look like trees. Have you seen that? Heard that story? Yeah. So what did Jesus do at that point? What did he put? What did he do next? He what? He did it again. He took more mud, put it on his eyes, and then the guy says, now I see clearly. What's that? Is it possible? And I don't know this. This is pure speculation, and it's really just I haven't really explored it. But I wonder if the first time this happened, that his sensations, his visual tract was now healed, but he was still needing healing in his perceptions. I don't know. Because he was like, I don't know, I see men walking about like trees. Put it on, now I see clearly. That's an interesting miracle for me. I don't know what it means, but it could very well be that there's a difference in the way we perceive at a deeper level. We can still see, but not understand and organize. Go ahead. Yeah, John. Another way is saying he had maybe no schemas, no frameworks, no ability to organize and interpret. You see, that's what this is. Perception is this. This is a sensation. You know what this is, right? You ever seen this before? You all haven't seen this? This is called Fraser's spiral. Do you see the spiral? Why they call it Fraser's spiral? If you see the spiral, here's the thing. It's not a spiral. They're circles. Pure, concentric circles that your brain perceives as a spiral. Watch. Circle, circle, circle. It goes all the way in, but your brain turns it into a spiral. It's called Fraser's spiral. By the way, stare, right here at one of the, sometimes this works, stare at like right up here where this is at this red, right there. Just stare at that as long as possible. Right there, stare, and I'll turn it off. How many saw like an after image of green? Okay, I'll do it again. Stare right there at this red, and when I turn it off, see if you see an after image of green or bluish red, or bluish green. Did you see that? Okay. No, that's okay. Fraser's spiral. Ready? Your brain interprets the sensations and calls it a spiral. It's not a spiral. You've organized it and interpreted it that way. You've organized and interpreted this as something different or unique. Well, the question that's always out there is, how do we do that? how do we take a sensation and turn it into something meaningful? By the way, from the field of perception, from the field as psychologists have studied it, this central question has been around a long time. How do we organize and interpret the sensations that come in into something meaningful? If you want two different answers to this question, some people have said that you organize something like this, a sensation, and turn it into a spiral, or you see a person and you call that, or you see an object and say it's human or not human, or you have a sound or a noise or that smells. You organize this perception, this sensation, into something meaningful. And they say, here's the answer to this question. You've always done it. You were born doing this. You were, in essence, prepared at birth for this, and that would be the nativistic approach. Nativists would say that this is part of our nature, our heredity. And the answer to the question, how, is you were born with this ability. People are born with the ability to interpret sensations in a particular way. Or others have said just the opposite. No, you're not born this way. You have to learn this. You have to learn how to interpret things. That's a person, that's an animal, this is an object, this is a square. And that comes through a process called nurture, or the environment. So let's go to the guy that's blind. By the way, he happened to be in England, and his sight was restored, and they asked him this. As soon as his sight was restored, they said to him, okay, he's starting to see things a little bit now. Now they said to him, draw a bus. Because see, when he was blind, he used to take a bus, and his whole world, remember, comes through touch. Okay, now he can start to see, and they say, oh, now you can see, draw something, draw a bus. And that's what he drew. This is the actual picture. What people noticed right away, and maybe you're noticing if you look at this, is the whole front end of the bus isn't there. And they asked him, is that a picture full? And he says, it's complete. I see the bus right there. Is there anything missing? He says, I don't see anything missing. This is what I see. That's a bus. And so they said to him, what about the part right here? And he doesn't see anything. He thinks this is complete. What do we see missing? It'd be like a little, this front end. The whole front end is gone. And then, as he reconstructed his time as a blind person, he felt every part of the bus, the steering wheel and the wheels and the stairs and the decks and the windows, except he says as a blind person, he never touched the front part of a bus. He never touched it. So now when he has sight, it's as if that doesn't exist for him. Isn't that kind of freaky? It doesn't exist for him. What does that mean? So something goes on in our perceptions that's deep in part of us, and maybe this idea is he had to learn that and he never got that opportunity, so now it's almost like he doesn't see it. Isn't that weird? I don't know what he sees when he sees a bus. Does he not see that at all? Would he run into it if it was there? But that's what happened for him. Questions? Any questions? There are differences. Is it getting warm in here? Sorry, it is, huh? Whew. There are individual differences in perception, and your perceptions then are being influenced by nature. Give me some things that you think make differences in the way we perceive things. If we perceive another team as playing dirty, what might influence the perception as to whether or not we see this other team plays dirty and commits fouls and does whatever? What might influence our perception of that other team? If we don't like that team, if they're playing against our team, we might ignore other bad play from our team and see, some things that only stand out would be that. My wife used to think, for a long time, we used to go to psych conferences, that psychologists always had like goatees. She goes, man, every psychologist you see, they always have a goatee or a beard or something there. And so sure enough, we'd go to a conference and there'd be like 3,000 psychologists in the city of wherever we're at, or 10,000. And she'd always go, see, look, he's got a beard, got a goatee. I said, well, look at her. She doesn't. but not everyone did. But she would just simply see this perception all the time. And so she would ignore the people that didn't, and she thought that that's what she saw. Now, ultimately, there are different, give me some other differences that might influence whether or not, do you think your gender has an influence? Do male and female see things differently sometimes because of gender? Do you think age has a difference? Well, let's try this one. Gender, age, and culture. How about culture? Okay, so let's try a little trick. This doesn't always, it's not a trick, it's just let's just try it. So give me here's some gender differences in perception. Let's try with that one first. I'm going to put up 3 pictures, and I'll ask for a guy to tell me what he sees, and then a female. So give me a guy, I'll put up a picture, very top picture. Okay, tell me your name again. Zachariah, yeah. All right, top row, top picture. What do you see, Zach? Top picture.
First thing came to mind was like maybe like a teeth, like
Teeth.
like
Okay, that's fine. Give me a female. Someone raise your hand. Okay, go ahead. What do you see right back there? It looks like a piano. Uh-huh. So, by the way, males tend to see brushes or centipedes, and females tend to see teeth or comb. So that's exactly what I thought would happen. See, this is called backwards day. And it's just the opposite. So let's try the next one. All right, give me a male. All right, what do you see in the middle picture? A what? A donut. And female, yeah. A target. That's exactly what you were supposed to see. Remember, this is called backwards day. This works perfectly. Let's try a better one. Let's start with the female. Yes? A monkey and a guy. A trophy. And that's exactly. It's perfectly opposite day. It depends on who you ask first. It's the weirdest thing in the world. All right, so there are some gender differences. Obviously, they don't apply to this class. And maybe they don't apply to you. So gender, how about age? Ready? Let's try this one. Most people see something when I put this picture up. Look at the picture. Most of you can see a young woman. How many see a young woman in that picture? Almost everybody. How many see an older woman? Oh, good. How many see both? How many don't see either and you're like, it's just like a Rorschach? No? All right, well, if you don't see it, in general, you can look at this one. Younger people tend to see the younger woman right here. And you could also see does anybody not see the old woman? You'll see it eventually. Is it in your textbook? I think it is. You'll find it in there. If not, you'll see the older. I'll put it up in a minute. Now, this leads to a very important question. What is and what are the principles that go in for us organizing this? I've just said that sometimes culture, age, even gender, we can think of cultural differences, ready? Sometimes people from a different culture will perceive a slight that doesn't exist in a different culture. Because that culture has and does and follows certain rules, and it doesn't mean anything. Anybody have an example of being in a different culture and you saw something or something happened to you, it was weird and different, and it just because there was a cultural difference, what happened? Or do you know? Anybody? Yeah.
So I'm Hispanic, but like when my family comes into town and like they meet my friends and stuff who aren't, you always like kiss when you like say hi on the cheek and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And so that's different for
Okay, so there's different rules about nonverbal behavior, she said. So like in her family, you would hug and kiss a lot on the cheek, even friends, and when you meet somebody, but sometimes in other cultures, there's kind of more distance. Uh-huh, we'll talk about that one. Do you have one?
I'm from London, so we say something different with two people, but coming back in America, people don't understand what I say and they think I'm insulting.
Yeah, so she's from London, and so she says obviously there's different ways that we use different words or say different things, and it's hard to sometimes understand. And sometimes that's a peace sign, and that's not. That's a bad sign in London, by the way. That's as bad as you can get, huh?
Yeah.
This is really, yeah, so, okay. Anyway, okay. Culture determines oftentimes some of our perceptions. How do we organize perceptions? Perceptual organization has a couple of things to it that I want you to pay attention to in the textbook, so do this. Ready? In the textbook with perceptual organization, I want you to begin looking at some different ways and things that happen, such as organizing and how we divide up reality. In many situations, there are clear divisions between objects and their background, and so we can tell an object. And it's easy to divide up reality that way. One principle that helps us is this principle called Gestalt. And a Gestalt simply says that we like to look for or tend to find patterns. So it's almost, for some of you, once you start cloud watching, it's hard not to see things in clouds. Have you noticed that? If you start to look at clouds and come up with images and pictures, we tend to want to come up with a whole, a configuration, some pattern, and that's kind of what makes, let's say, cloud watching fun. So you remember the Necker cube, where if a human is given a bunch of different sensations, we tend to organize them into something called a Gestalt. So you tend to see this as a Necker cube. You tend to see this as floating behind or in front of. We talked about this earlier on this class, and that's an example of a Gestalt. If we give a person a cluster, they tend to organize them into something like a whole, meaningful. And this helps us understand a little bit about this process of dividing up reality. So you've seen those figures that kind of reverse themselves, like stairs. That's what that's kind of showing is the differences. These stairs, you can see the dark red ones, it feels like you're going up. But if you stare at it long enough, you could see where it all of a sudden switches. Tell me, raise your hand when it switches for you, and it's no longer going up. See if it's going sideways. Does it switch? Raise your hand as soon as it switches. It's like popcorn. It just, yeah. Can you guys not? Some? Sometimes it takes a little while of staring, and we don't have as much time, so we'll just try some other cool ones. What's this image of? Some see a cow. If not, it takes a little bit of time. How do you organize that quickly? Look for the cow facing you. Eventually it pops. It's facing you, big ears. Ready? Look like this. Anybody still not see the cow? Who doesn't see it? Y'all get it. Okay, great. What's that? Some say a seal or a donkey. Okay, that Dalmatian dog. Okay, that's the idea behind a Gestalt. We take something, we organize it into something meaningful. What's that? That's the world. It's upside down. Kind of like today's class. Figure ground, ready? This process, that's the Gestalt. We organize it once we get it, and then sometimes we don't see it, we're like, and then eventually, oh wait, I made sense of it. Figure ground is important because this is something that artists will use and people will use to hide things. By the way, the military's one of their key perceptual organizational tasks is to hide figures. That's what they do. It's called stealth. So they found out that people see things if you hide it from them, and they even make things up. So the number one thing, fighter pilots, they're told to do this, ready? Fighter pilots are told, take a mission, fly, you don't have any equipment, no computers, but you gotta drop your bombs and go, there's an airstrip out in the middle of nowhere, but here's what we want you to do. We only want you to bomb fighter airplanes that are on the tarmac. That's your mission. Go fly over, you're flying by sight. As soon as you get to the airstrip, bomb only the planes on the tarmac. They always go and they bomb the planes on the tarmac, and they bomb one other thing by accident each time. What else do they bomb each time they go over And they're told, just bomb the airplanes. They always bomb the airplanes, but they can fool a pilot or the guy that's dropping the bombs because they know something about them dividing up and how they make a gestalt out and how they make something a figure ground. They put, by the way, the ground is the key word. They put something on the ground and they bomb it. What have they figured out they put on the ground?
Like their shadow?
Ultimately, they can take a whole airstrip and do nothing but shadows of airplanes. And if they put shadows, they go over and they bomb the shadows. That's pretty cool because from a distance, a pilot going over sees a shadow and their brain goes, oh, there's the airplane, because of the shadows, one of the key features. Because sometimes that plane blends in a lot with the tarmac and they bomb shadows. Isn't that interesting? So now what would you do if you knew that? If you had an airstrip out in the middle of nowhere, what would you put all over maybe a fake airstrip to get rid of bombs, right? Okay, that is the way we do figure ground. It's like this. Do you see faces and the vases? Yeah. So there's faces and vases. One's the figure, one's the ground. The black is the vase, the white is the face, and they go back and forth. Or, here's stealth technology. By the way, you can see these planes that are flying, but this isn't exactly how it does it, but ultimately the goal of stealth is to hide the figure into the ground so you can't see it. And when people are sitting at a radar screen, they should be able to go, gosh, I can't, that looks just like a mountain or the ground. They don't pick it up. It's called figure ground. You can play with it in art. You see love, hate. Love is in white and then hate is in black. You see that? Or, this is one of my favorite ones. This is called Us by John Langdon. There's you in the middle and me together. We make us. Oh, y'all said. It's called Us. This is one of my favorite. Can you see it? By the way, this is playing with figure ground. It's the same thing as an optical illusion. That's what John Langdon does. But can you see the words in white, optical, and then in the background you see the words illusion as the painted. Okay. This is that art. It looks like from this angle like stairs, but if you were to walk upon this scene, it would not look like stairs. In fact, it would look really odd. These are perfect squares, but more importantly, they're perfectly straight lines going that way. But do they look crooked? Yeah. And it's just the way your brain interprets that as a crooked line, but they're very straight. So here's some other cool ones. That circle in the middle, does that look like a circle? Does it look like a lopsided bad circle that a kid would draw, or you, or whatever? Watch. It's not, because I could take this circle and I could slide it. Watch this. I'll slide. Ooh, don't do that. I could do that. Watch. Right. Oh! Anyway, it's perfectly over it. Doesn't look like it, but it is. Huh. Perfect circle, but our brains interpret things like this very uniquely or differently, and it's just called figure ground. And then there's grouping principles. You can look at this in the textbook. Grouping principles are just things like we group this stuff over on the top right. This image right here, we tend to see this not as 6 lines, but as 3 sets of 2, 2, 2, and 2. Or we tend to see this as columns of triangles and a column of circles. Just different things that we do. We tend to close this off and we see it easily as a shell, or whatever. And this we see as a straight line with a wavy line, instead of seeing it as half circles, which, by the way, if you pull it like that, they're just half circles. But we tend to see it. So those are principles like similarity, principles of convergence. So different grouping principles, look at that. One other one I want to talk about real quick is depth perception and how we see depth perception is a function of what we get. And when we take in a sensation into our eyes, depth says with 2 eyes, we get a slightly different image, and we go like this. Oh, I see depth. That's why you can reach and grab something. I had a student of mine who lost sight in her eye for a month or 2, and I don't know if she had surgery or what, but she initially had a hard time judging distance because she only had, sight out of one eye, and she said oftentimes she'd knock over her drink when she tried to pick it up, or she'd reach too far, and she had to learn little things about grabbing something really close because of these binocular cues she didn't have anymore, and that's what we have for depth. So would a person with one eye be able to land an airplane, for example, safely? If you were in charge, would you let one of those two? If they were a pilot, who would you? And if you had to pick one pilot for your airplane, would you care who was the pilot? Some of you would say Sully instead of Mike. Well, guess what? You could still land an airplane with one eye and not have any problems. Why is that? Because depth perception is more, and it's usually than what we get out of both these eyes at a close place. So depth perception, what's his name on the left? Is that Sully? Oh, that's Mike. Yeah, Mike, the M. Mike can land an airplane without any problems. A pilot with one eye won't have any problems with depth perception because there's other cues we get. The environment tells us somebody's sitting far away, they're small, that's a depth perception clue. I can tell how far away they are. But you can mess with depth perception like this. Those two cans are the same size. These two balls are exactly the same size. But because we can set up this image as if you're in an alleyway made out of brick, it would look like the ball way back there is bigger when in reality they're the same size. It's just so you can mess with depth cues and depth perception if everything around it is pointing to, but those are the exact same size. So I'll show you some other cool ones like constancies. This is a cool constancy where we see this door changing shape, but we always know to ourselves, it's the same door. It's not all of a sudden turned from like a rectangle, into a trapezoid. We just see it as, we see it as constant. There are some cool conflicts like these things that can't be built, right? Impossible objects. Some of these are way cool, so you could never build something like that because it's what we call on a two-dimensional surface, you can do this. Three-dimensionally, it can't be done. That gets into this painting. That looks kind of cool from that angle, right? He's a chalk artist who drew a person in a pool, and it looks like he's kind of getting into it. But if you were to walk upon this scene, it would not look like that. In fact, her leg, see her leg sticking up? It goes, okay, there's a guy, by the way, drawing himself. But from this angle, it looks cool. Here's the angle again that you would have to be at, because otherwise it would look like that. There's her foot way down there, and it doesn't look anything at all like that. But from this angle, if you were way over, see the camera way over there? On the other side, that's what's getting this view. Kind of looking down right that close, you'll get that view. But otherwise, it looks like that. And that's just changing, perception. This is what Escher did in works of art where this water, this is cool. This one flows, and you can see water flowing like this. It goes down this hill, and you trace the water. It goes over this water wheel, and it flows this way, then this way, then this way, then this way, and it goes right back. And obviously, that's an impossible figure. And so that's why his works of art were so interesting, because they work two-dimensionally, but you can never build that 3 dimensions. Okay? A contrast effect, by the way, is similar in that contrasts, just when you put different contrasts together, our brains have a weird time picking things up. So you can see little black dots with contrast effects. This is not this one, but contrast effects are one of my favorite. If you try and count these black dots, you can see how weird, because they keep popping up there, don't they? Okay, here's the one that I think is the weirdest of all, called a contrast effect. Ready? This one. This is a checkerboard. Checkerboard, this square is marked A, and this square is marked B. The square that's marked A, ready, is the exact same color as the square that's marked B. A is the exact same color as this square marked B. But your brain does a contrast effect and it says that can't be. By the way, this is the coolest one. Ready? I'll show you what I mean. I'll take a picture of A and put it right next to A, and a picture of B and put it right next to B. See that? Same color. A is right on A, and then watch, I'll pull it out. B, A, and straight across, and look. They're the exact same color. And your brain just says things like, what? It doesn't work. So you go backwards. A and B are the same squares. Exactly. You want to try it again? There it is. There it is. There it is. That's cool to me. See, your brain does some weird contrasting effects. It simply adds in and makes things look the same when it's called contrasts. So you do things like that. We can see these different triangles. They're all of them. We would think the ones at the bottom have a different color than the ones at the top. They seem a lot lighter, when in reality, do the ones on bottom seem lighter? But they're the exact same color. These are the same as those up there. It's kind of cool. That's what contrast effects. Okay. And by the way, when you see that, that's kind of what we call this relational nature of perception. That is, sometimes objects or things appear differently depending upon the context or their relationship with other objects. That's the contrast effect. We see it differently depending upon who we're around. So I would go, I remember watching a basketball game on TV a lot, so it was I forget if it was the Lakers or Clippers, whoever it was playing. And then I got tickets one time way up close, and so I was able to see some of the players as they were coming off the court. And the guys that I thought were some of the littlest guys out there, because of the contrast effect, they were compared to some of the bigger players, like Shaq. Some of these small guards looked small to me, and then I saw them in person. They were huge. That's a contrast effect. These are big boys or people, and they look like little kids. And you can imagine what most of us would look like, right? It's called a contrast effect. So that illustrates the relational nature of perception and why we're able to do these kinds of weird contrasts. Are there any questions? Make sense? All right. Let's try motion perception. Go ahead, 2 questions, yeah.
What if you were tired and then they make you look at something, but would you look at it differently?
Yeah, there are, by the way, psychologically, there are certain effects and perceptions that vary depending upon our psychological state, like tiredness. Is that what you're saying? Oh, yeah. So you could be tired and sense or hear things maybe slightly differently than if you weren't, or not hear things. Is that the idea?
Yeah. But,
yeah.
Why or not?
Well, the answer is, remember we talked a little bit about the idea of how you detect a signal? Sometimes if you really want to see something or expect to see something, you just simply pick it up differently, depending upon your motivation or level, or even your tiredness. If I paid you, it would change what we call some of the dynamics of this and your motivation, and you would see or perceive it differently or better or stronger versus if you're, let's say, not paid or you were tired or something. Yeah? Did you have one or no? Okay. Well, this is called the spinning chevron. This is, by the way, these are motion perception. So if you keep your eyes reading over there, keep your eyes moving when you look, you can see it spinning. Does it spin when you read? So if you read what's to the right, you'll see it spinning. Is that right? Yeah. It's called the spinning chevron. Or like this one's cool, I think. It kind of rotates. Your brain is constantly putting in and making up things for it. Or this is this is a bad one. It's like a screensaver gone bad. Is it? Okay, so it moves. Oh, stare at the red. Yeah, stare at the red. Right here. Just stare at it. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Keep staring. Just focus in on that red right there. Did you see the after image? That was awesome. That was weird, huh? Okay, one more time. Just do it again. Why not? I'll see if a white screen will do it. I doubt it will. What color was the image? Let's try white. Stare at the red. Did you see it? Yeah, that was a little bit better. Okay. All right, then the last question we have ultimately for today is this one. Perceptions, we started by talking about, are we born with some of these? Do cultures, age, gender make a difference? What we expect? And then this question comes in, do we learn to perceive? Do we ever, or are there times in which we learn to perceive? So I'll show you a video. I think I'll save it though, but I'm going to show you a video of something called perceptual adaptation, where a person puts on glasses that changes the world and moves it slightly differently to a couple of degrees this way. So if they were to shake your hand wearing these glasses, initially they would reach out. So shake my hand, or I'll give you 5. So reach it way high. And if I put these glasses on and it adjusted the world like a few degrees off, I'd go like that. What would happen the next time? That I'd get closer and then closer, and about the third or fourth time. So then at that point, I've made this adjustment. So we put him on this quarterback in practice. He's actually from Stanford. And he put on these glasses and he was throwing to his wide receiver, and he'd throw it, boom, and he'd miss him by 5 yards out that way, which was kind of like this weekend what happened. And so then the next time what would happen, he'd throw it and he'd miss him by 3 yards. And then the next time he'd start to get it and he'd start to hit it and he'd be perfect. Guy would do it down and out. And after about 5 or 6 throws, his brain made this adjustment and now he's just firing right at the guy. What would happen right the moment we said, all right, now he got to use, he's doing that, throwing a perfect pass. We take the glasses off, what's he going to do? He's going to miss the opposite way. Guy would do this and he'd throw it and the ball would go right behind him 5 yards. Does that make sense? Because now he's adjusted, he's moved, and so we put people wearing glasses that turns the world completely upside down. And then we see what people can do and how they can adjust, and it's called perceptual adaptation. So I'll show you some inverted visions and some examples in just a minute. One cool one is what we call perceptual adaptation and our ability to do that. And sometimes we have these mental predispositions that also are kind of cool to look at, called perceptual sets. And a perceptual set, we tend to look at something frequently enough, and for us, faces are that way. You have a set, you expect a thing. Ready? Here's a picture of my wife that's upside down. And you go, well, something's wrong with part of that, because you could kind of see that, I messed it up a little. But if you turn, it doesn't look all that bad because you're used to seeing eyes in one direction and a smile in one direction. But when you turn it this way, she looks really freaky. So this is my wife when she's in a really bad mood. But that's her, like I say, at least I'm going to look at you like that because you look better. But then when you turn it up, you're like, yeah. That look weird? Don't tell her I did this, but it's just an upside down. We tend to not, we think, well, something's a little bit odd, but it doesn't really look weird until we do it that way. That's called a mental predisposition, okay? You have certain role expectations then, so let's try this. Ready? I'm going to put a word up there. And by the way, if you know the answer to this, don't say it, okay? Ready? Tell me this. What does this word spell? Out loud, ready? What does this word spell? You say it out loud. What does this word spell? What do we call the white of an egg? Yolk. That's weird. It's almost like I said, what do we call the white of an egg? And many of you said yolk, but we don't call the white of an egg yolk. We call it the white of an egg or whatever. Egg white. How many said yolk and you said it? Yeah, that's messed up. You can do this one, ready? Oh, here's a cool one. You can do this with I do this with my 10-year-old all the time. I say, all right, Eddie, well, not all the time because she figures it out by now. What number comes after the number 32? Say it out loud. 33. What comes after 73? 74. What comes after 216? 217. What comes after 593? 594. What comes after 1099? 2000. 2000. That's so weird, because what comes after 1099 is 1100. You guys are messed up, man. That's messed up. All right. Role expectations. The cool thing about this for psychologists isn't to try and fool people. All it does is says, Sometimes the context sets up people for saying or answering a certain thing. So 1,099, it sounds like 2,000, but it's not. And these are called just simple predispositions or sets that we have or that we experience the world through. And then the way we started was this idea of perception without sensation. So that's ESP. And for the categories that I showed, any questions on anything about perceptual sets? Adaptation means we can give somebody a world that's either upside down. And by the way, somebody that wears glasses that turns the world upside down, it's really strange. You ought to watch this person, and I'll see if I can bring the video next time, where she tries just to simply pour water in a glass from a pitcher. And imagine the world's upside down. What you're seeing is like water going up. And so it's like, and she has a hard time even knowing where to pour. But by the end of the day, with actually about 2 or 3 days, she can ride a bike and the world is completely upside down. So I'll show you that. So that's the idea that we can adapt to a changing world. So we know there's some learning that occurs. This question is there perception without sensation? So here are the categories, just one more time: telepathy, clairvoyance, which Polly showed us, and then precognition. And I've given you examples of each of those. By the way, this is kind of known as the study of parapsychology, which is unusual psychological phenomenon, which is not a very big field in the field of psychology. In reality, there's not a whole lot of research that goes on here because there's, no evidence scientifically yet that anybody has shown a sign of telepathy, clairvoyance, or precognition. We have never found a reproducible example in a laboratory of people that have telepathy, clairvoyance, or precognition. In fact, you can win, $1 million today if you find somebody that can show or do telepathy, clairvoyance, or precognition. Then there's a magician out there who will give you $1 million if you'll bring that person with you, or if you yourself are that person, and you can convince them that you can do this, because my guess is the only way you can do telepathy, clairvoyance, or precognition is using magic tricks. We don't find any evidence of it occurring. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, the difference between what we do in these examples are, this is human to human, let's say. The Bible would be a completely different example of, but even the Bible has certain expectations that it puts on people who have, that are prophecies, right? If you get it right every time, we know that it's, and so there are examples biblically about prophecy that are amazing, predicting of future events. Even the birth of Jesus there are over 300 predictions like that, prophecies concerning his birth, which are phenomenal, that came true. So that's different. So that would be, let's say, God revealing things in the future. This would be human to human, and we don't find any evidence of that. So it's just a different category that we would say is occurring. And yeah.
Have you heard of Nostradamus?
How about Nostradamus? Have you heard of that before? I've heard of him making many predictions of the future, and in reality, that's also not supported at all, because what ends up happening is none of these predictions, or many of these predictions, have had a variety of interpretations depending upon. So most scientists discount that. I'll tell you what, you look at material related to ESP, see if you have any questions. I'm not going to answer anything, which is the main question that you have. What we did in this class was just all a magic trick. Polly doesn't have clairvoyance. It was just magic, and I can't tell you how. I'm not going to be able to tell you. When you graduate, you can come ask me and I'll tell you, but I don't want to ruin it today. So anyway, that's all it was. Magic, nothing to it, not clairvoyance. See you.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.